While the European military-industrial complex musters hundreds of millions of euros in budget and loan funds, those are the people of Ukraine who must continue to die. And to elaborate on this subject, I would like to speak on desertion in Ukraine. The anxieties of the Zelensky regime, which is concerned about its self-preservation, are understandable. The average number of those who have left the ranks of the Ukrainian armed forces and the battlefield, according to the official data of the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine alone, remains stable at the level of 15 to 18,000 people per month, with the so-called monthly mobilization. In this case, tens of thousands are appropriate, and those numbers are not appropriate when they speak about abducted children. These are numbers of those who left the battlefield, not the children who were kidnapped. The so-called monthly mobilization potential is 30,000 recruits. Since February 2022, more than 230,000 criminal cases have been opened for unauthorized abandonment of a military unit and 53,000 for desertion. Just imagine. 230,000 criminal cases were opened, which have evidence and all profiles and documents which showcase and confirm that this criminal act was committed. In reality, the total figure, according to experts, can reach 500,000 people, as observers note after the change in the rules for registering deserters on June the 1st, 2025, many commanders, in order to temporarily preserve payments for escaped soldiers, are in no hurry to report such cases. This is the kind of mathematics they are carrying out, and the authorities, the government, I mean the Kyiv regime, of course, they do not provide the full scale of those digits because they want to diminish those numbers. And the picture becomes even more terrifying for the Kyiv regime if we add to the mentioned figures the 1.7 million irretrievable losses of the Ukrainian military based on the data of the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff, and this is not the definitive figure. These are only fragments, some fragments of the picture of the desertion in the Ukrainian armed forces. The true picture of how the Ukrainian soldiers are leaving the battlefield is even more terrifying, even more horrific. But I would like to reiterate once again that journalists and bloggers, of course, they track all those figures and those developments. However, this does not stop Bankova. For the sake of preserving their power, their dictatorship, and of course for the enrichment, they are ready to continue hostilities until the last Ukrainian is left standing and to exterminate their own population. Now, speaking about the military needs of the Kyiv regime, we noticed the analysis of Ukraine's budget and expenditures for the needs of the front and current needs published on October 30 in the British journal The Economist. According to the publication's calculation, to continue the conflict against Russia in 2026-2029, Kyiv will need $389 billion in financial resources and weapons. Once again, $389 billion. This, as noted, is almost twice the amount of support from Europe since February 2022. Let me remind you, about $206 billion what was spent. It is noteworthy that, according to the analysts, and there is one clarification, those were funds provided by prosperous economies, and they were continuing to develop on energy resources they were receiving from Russia. Given that for themselves, at the instruction of Brussels, the Western Europeans are banning themselves to use the stable and guaranteed energy resources at a reasonable price they used to buy from Russia on a regular basis, given the evident trends of economy stagnation, their own economies, and any attempts to revive their economy by militarization of industries alone. You can imagine that the doubled burden of expenditure on the Kyiv regime will kill the Western European countries. It is noteworthy that, according to analysts, the financing of Ukraine will have to continue even in the event of an end to hostilities due to the need to maintain the army and contain Russia. The Economist clarifies that if the cost of helping Kyiv fell entirely on Europe, it would have to fork out $328 billion and the rest would be paid by Britain. The publication also states that the sources of financing for Ukraine's military expenditures are gradually drying up, and in February 2026 there will be no money for these purposes. According to journalists, about $110 billion has been allocated for the supply of the Ukrainian armed forces this year. In total, Kyiv military spending by the end of 2025 will amount to $360 billion. And how could these funds be used? They could have been spent for social purposes. They could have been spent to assist the needy in South Africa and in Asian countries, and many people could have been provided with shelter. Many infrastructure facilities could have been built, restored on the territories of such states as France, Italy, and some others. Many tragedies could have been prevented, many diseases could have been cured, and many children could have been spent. But there is an impression that those forces who are behind fomenting the conflict in Ukraine do not need this at all. And of course, with aggression, with exacerbated aggression and hatred, the Kyiv regime is fighting against the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and I would like to reiterate that they are trying to exterminate not the form, but the content. They are trying to exterminate the Orthodox faith in general. The Kyiv regime is not abandoning its plan to liquidate the canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church and seize its property in favor of schismatic so-called Orthodox Church of Ukraine. On October the 29th of this year, the Supreme Court of Ukraine rejected the appeal of the Kyiv metropolis, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, with a demand to restore its rights and guarantee a fair judicial process within the framework of the lawsuit filed by the State Service of Ukraine. This is an attempt by the Ukrainian Orthodox Church to temporarily prohibit this department from taking actions against church structures associated with the Kyiv metropolis, while the main lawsuit on its ban is being considered. The church asked to the court to apply protective measures, fearing that without this, the State Service for Ethnopolitics and Freedom of Conscience of Ukraine would be able to send orders on the elimination of violations to 154 religious organizations that are part of the metropolis. According to representatives of the Kyiv metropolis, this could provoke numerous lawsuits to ban them. On October 30 of this year, the first session of the 6th Administrative Court of Appeal of Kyiv was held on the aforementioned lawsuit of the State Service for Ethnopolitics and Freedom of Conscience of Ukraine. However, the regime failed to immediately achieve the desired decision. According to the Ukrainian Orthodox Church